I'll declare a quorum and call the meeting to order. There are two items for discussion tonight, or for comments. There will be no discussion from the commissioners. But first is conduct a public meeting in the form of informational workshop. We have two topics. One is the creation of a reinvestment zone for IP Radiant Solar Farm and entering into a tax abatement agreement with IP Radio. Again, tonight is for public comments. The comments should be made from people who reside in Brown County, with the exception of that will be in the beginning when Radiant, of course, is allowed to present their position and why they're asking for the abatement. I'm going to read a statement here that's going to be that governs our rules and our conduct for the quorum for tonight, and then I'm going to turn the meeting over to our county attorney, and he'll act as a moderator. And again, no one from the Commissioners Court is permitted to answer any questions tonight. So please don't get frustrated if you forget that and ask a question. We cannot respond by nature of the format. All right. First, let me read the statement, and these are the adopted policies of the Commissioners Court. It is not the intention of the Brown County Commissioners Court to provide a public forum for the demeaning of any individual or group. However, neither is it the intention of the court to allow a member of the court to insult the public or question the honesty or integrity of anyone in the room. So in short, accordingly, profane and insulting and threatening language, obviously, I believe everyone in here will be ladies and gentlemen, but that type of conduct will not be tolerated. However, we do want to allow you your First Amendment right. However, we ask that you please be very respectful and courteous, and remember where we are, and then remember that this is an actual meeting of the Brown County Commissioners Court. It's a formal meeting. So any violation of the rules can result in the cancellation of the remaining speaking time and up to and including the removal from the courtroom. And for the purposes of this meeting tonight, this is a courtroom, so please keep that in mind. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Britton, our county attorney, and he's going to discuss with you the format and the time allotments for each. And again, first, word my manners. I want to thank all of you for coming out, by the way, and for showing interest in something that's so important to our community. We do greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone will be on their best behavior. With that, Mr. Britton, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Judge Lilly. As the judge stated, we will follow a predetermined written format for the hearing today. All right. Well, that's the first thing I put on.
Sounds like you were in a barrel there.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Kind of. As the judge said, we're going to follow a predetermined written format for the hearing today. I was actually going to remind the speakers to please speak loudly and clearly. I guess I should have reminded myself. This is being videoed and is being shown live on YouTube. And so we want to make sure that everybody that comments can be heard on the internet. The workshop will be 2 hours in duration. We're not going to cut you off at the end of 2 hours if we're getting close to the end. Any questions about the reinvestment zone or the tax abatement should be submitted in writing and will be answered by the consultant for Brown County, Robert Bass of Allison Bass & McGee, at the closing. The rules of procedure, conduct, and quorum will be followed. Each speaker shall fill out a public participation form. Has everybody had a chance to fill one of those out? They wanted to speak. We've got a stack of forms. Anybody else? IP Radiant will have 10 minutes to present their project proposal, and then each opposing view will have 40 minutes total to express their viewpoints. Each side will divide their 40 minutes among themselves and will be timed by the court. The order we're going to go in this evening is introductions by IP Radiant will be 10 minutes. And then all of the ones, everyone who signed up in favor of the tax abatement will go next. And then those who are against it will go last. And then we'll have a 20-minute closing where questions will be answered. There was at the sign-in sheet, there was note cards for you to ask your questions. If during the event you have a question that you would like answered, you can go to the back and there will be a place where you can ask that question and then somebody will bring it up to me. There being no other business, we will begin with IP Radian's 10-minute project proposal.
Can you hear me okay? Hi, my name is Christian Feeney from Intersect Power. I'm accompanied here by Dale Cummings from Cummings Westlake. First, I'd like to thank the Commissioners Court in Brown County for hosting this event, giving us an opportunity to talk about the company, projects, and the 312 tax agreement process. So Intersect Power, the team, has been developing in Texas for a very long time. We were one of the earlier developers here. We started developing in 2010. I currently have been working here since 2012. The first project that we built in Pecos County came online in 2016, sold the power to Austin Energy. Since then, Intersect Power as a company has developed 3 more projects which are currently under construction in Gordon County and in Culberson County, Texas. In addition to that, we have around 1 gigawatt of projects that we're currently developing, which includes 300 megawatt project here in Brown County. While we are a developer, we are also going to own and operate this project. So we are here to talk about the 312 agreement, but we also are here to establish a strong relationship with the community because we plan to be here for a long time to come. The project is located in the southwestern corner of Brown County. It's just on the border of Coleman County, and we are utilizing private lands from 12 private landowners. It is surrounded by rural country roads. It's not a thoroughfare for the community, so you may not normally see it on the average day. We're interconnecting, as you can see in the pink line there in small, into the Encore-owned 345 kV transmission line. As you can see in this picture, we're taking up most of the usable land for a solar project, interconnecting into the only 345 kV substation in the county. We've been working with Encore for about 1.5 years to study the project. There is very limited transmission capacity on that line. We're taking up a vast majority of it. And I just want to highlight where we stand and where we are in the county. Just to note, solar projects are very different than wind projects. They're no higher than 10 feet tall. They don't have bright blinking red lights that you can see at night from a distance. The panels on our project are very dark blue. So if you can see them at all, from a distance, they're just going to look like water. Most projects, and this one in particular, driving up to it, have very minimal visibility due to the natural topography in the area, rolling hills, fences that are in place, and the natural trees that are already there. We'll talk a little bit more about the project here in a second, but first I'd like to give the podium to Dale here to talk about the 312 process.
Thank you, Christian. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dale Cummings. I represent Intersect Power for. My name is Dale Cummings. I represent Intersect Power for tax matters, including the proposed tax abatement agreement with Brown County. So Brown County, Intersect Power is asking Brown County for a Chapter 312 tax abatement, Chapter 312 being Chapter 312 of the tax code. We're asking for the tax abatement in order to be competitive with other projects in Texas that we compete against to sell wholesale power. All of these projects have tax abatement agreements with the with the counties they're located in. I'm not aware of any utility scale solar project in the state of Texas that's been done without a tax abatement. So Chapter 312 of the tax code was created by the legislature in 1987 as a way to give local communities a way to incentivize investment and jobs in Texas, to compete with other counties, to compete with other states, to try to incentivize investment in jobs. Chapter 312, since it was created in 1987, it's been reapproved and expanded by the legislature. Most recently, in the 2019 session of the legislature, the act was extended until 2029. The tax abatement will incentivize a project that will provide long-term economic benefits to the county for the 35-year expected life of the project. It'll generate tax revenue for the county every year, even with tax abatement. And there's no tax loss to the county. I've heard people say, well, this is going to raise my taxes. This is not going to raise anybody's taxes. There's nothing on the tax roll now. There's nothing to give away. So we think this is a good financial deal for Brown County. When we first initiated discussions with the court, we talked about a tax abatement request that was an 85% abatement for 10 years. The current tax abatement discussion we're having with the commissioners now is an average of 55% tax abatement over 7 years instead of 10. Several members of the court had a concern about 10 years. So the decrease in tax abatement is from 85 to 55%. And the effect of doing that is our tax payments are $2 million higher than they would be under the 85% tax abatement agreement. And I would comment that this is the lowest tax abatement percentage that Intersect Power has done in the state of Texas, and I've been involved with all of them. I would also point out that this is structured as a payment in lieu of tax proposal. A payment in lieu of tax basically allows the county to budget the money it's going to receive every year, and it has no impact on your effective tax rate calculation.
Thank you, Dale. Just to highlight, so with this agreement in place, if the project is built, the project would still pay $3.4 million in taxes estimated over the first 11 years to the county. Over the 35-year useful life, that would be $9.2 million to the county. We use for roads, bridges, anything else the county wants to use it for. But in addition to this, we have an agreement with the school district in place. This project, if it's built, will pay $5.5 million in payments to the school district over the first 11 years. I know we've got a lot of students here in the audience. Thank you all for attending. But that money can go towards teachers, buildings, facilities, sports. Over the 35-year life, that's $16.2 million. So between the two agreements and the two taxing entities, we would pay around $9 million over the first 11 years in taxes and $25 million over the first 35 years. Now, when you compare that to the current ag use, we would estimate that around 2,000 or 2,500 acres would pay around $44,000 in taxes over the same 11-year period and $140,000 over a 35-year period. So that is an improvement in about 180 times in the taxes, and we're still going to pay the taxes on the underlying land. In addition to the tax contributions, which are significant, the project will create around 300 to 400 new construction jobs during the construction period. So these are construction jobs over the 12 to 18 month period. We are going to have a local job fair to hire local labor if this agreement's approved, and we're going to those construction workers are going to use local restaurants, hotels. They're going to patronize the local economy significantly, and we're going to create 2 permanent jobs here as well. So with any big infrastructure project like this, it's not unusual for there to be questions or maybe even misinformation about the project. I just want to address some facts really quickly. This project will not receive any taxes from Brown County. It's not going to increase anyone's taxes. We are going to have a net positive impact on the local economy over a 35-year period of around $25 million. I mentioned this earlier, but the Radiant project does take up most of the usable land in the area, but we also are taking up most of the usable transmission capacity. Now, there are limits to how many projects can be put into an area given the land and the interconnection restrictions. So approving this agreement, it would not ensure that Brown County is just blanketed in solar. Now, we've been developing this project since 2018 under the Trump administration. We develop projects the same under any administration at any point in time. As I mentioned, our first project came online in 2016. We started this one in 2018. And we're utilizing the same Chapter 312 that we've used for other projects, which has been in place for 23 plus years. So all that is to say that this project is not directly associated with like the Green New Deal or anything like that. It's just a part of doing business in Texas. I'll just say quickly, I know that many here were affected by the power outages in the Texas winter event from February 15th to the 19th. Solar and wind were not the primary contributors to that, as you can see here. And I just want to say, clarify that we do have weather instruments on site already. If this project had been online, the Radian project would have been producing. It would not have gone on outage. It would have actually been increasing in generation during the winter event. So we have been doing a ton of studies on the project, like we do for any solar project, in preparation for finance and for engineering. This site does not contain any habitat for sensitive species. Doesn't have any federally protected species or state protected species on site. And before we start construction, we will do construction surveys to ensure that any common species that are out there are not impacted. Got 8 seconds here. Just lastly, this project is using land from 12 landowners, 12 private landowners. It is utilizing land that's mostly not used for much agriculture right now. But most importantly, when the project is built, the land will return in great part to its natural state. You can see in this picture, most projects have grass that comes up. Those sheep we put on place to actually manage the vegetation. And I had one more, but for the sake of time, we'll have a fire management program in place to make sure everyone's safe. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Do you mind if I kick off the support round? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Do you have a list?
I have a list of everybody, and I don't think I'm missing anybody. I checked just before the meeting. So thank you again. We have a list of speakers prepared to speak here today. I'd like to first just introduce Superintendent Mickelson from the school district to speak. Thank you.
Few notes here. I appreciate this very much. It's good to see everyone. Try to keep this relevant to the school district itself. Let the other experts kind of run with all the other details. I do think it's important that we make sure that we get our facts straight. I've seen a lot of things out there floating around that are just not accurate. That said, from the school district's vantage, this is a gift. It's just straight up a gift. I know that may not be the legal terminology, but as far as what we're looking at, this is monies that we would not have. And I think it's the same with the county. County would not have it too without the abatement. These are monies that are going to go for some really cool things for our kids. So when we're looking at this, funding for schools is very difficult right now. It's very difficult for the small schools. You know, since COVID hit, we're looking at most schools are looking at a tight year next year. It's just how it is. Here we're looking at hundreds of jobs in the area up close to us, which would be awesome. We may even get some more kiddos there. But also, we're going to be getting millions, over time, just as the county will get millions. And no one's footing the bill except for the companies. So I'm having a hard time understanding. I certainly respect everyone's viewpoint on this. I'm having a hard time understanding how this is not absolutely outstanding news. And so when we're looking at things like with any extra money we have, what's going to happen? We're looking at, we could use some new buses. That would be fantastic. All the buses we have to repair all the time. And we just don't, we're on, the way the state hands out funds to school districts is that you're limited in how you can spend that money. So you may have X amount of money you have to spend on, say, maybe it is transportation, maybe it's a high school allotment, and we certainly want to spend money on, careers, career preparation, this type of thing. But we have so many limitations, especially on federal funds, that it gets really tedious, and it gets where you are searching that budget out, looking for a way to pay for this, to pay for that, and what have you. This money, there are no restrictions on the spending, which is a really, really cool thing. I cannot imagine any district thinking this is just not absolutely outstanding, phenomenal, bring it on, how quickly can we make this happen? So I'm pretty excited as a superintendent of a small district, and to see this happen, to see it come to fruition. We have not only buses, but curriculum. Again, this thing can be used for staffing. Even the supplemental payments alone for our district can be used for positions. And we work hard because the state, in my opinion, does not provide enough funds for every position we would like. And I know it provides the funds to do what we have to do, but there are other positions, like specialist positions, that would be very helpful with these kids, like math specialists or something along those lines. These are positions that can also be used with this money. Also, other simple things like field trips and maybe some extravagant, helpful, educational-related field trips could be utilized or used. What this money could be used for, rather. So, again, I keep just kind of coming back to us. It's a gift. So I don't know, what it looks like to everybody. Everybody has their reasons for what have you. But this is an absolutely outstanding thing for Brooks-Smith ISD. We are already an amazing school, and we're in good shape, and we're hanging in there. We've come from some really tough times, but this would help us tremendously. And so we'd ask that you would consider this. And we need to thank you very much. And I don't know how close I am on my time. Is there a beeping bell of some kind?
40 minutes.
40 minutes, okay. Then I'm going to cut this short. And that's how we stand at Brooks-Smith ISD. We thank you for your time. You'll have a good one.
Next, we have native Brown County resident and property owner, Mr. Kenneth Adams.
We as landowners never thought that we'd come across a project that would take our assets, provide for the Brooks-Smith School to make them financially stable, provide for us, and provide for Brown County citizens. By doing that, keeping the tax closer, keeping the taxes lower is helping all the citizens with the tax money that's being added. We looked at that as a win-win-win situation for all of us. And as a group of landowners, we come to a unanimous decision that that's what we'd do. We'd join into this. And when we did, we looked at it really hard and looked at what the future was, what the contracts were, and everything that went with it. And we just thought it looked like to us as a blessing to everybody in the county. 2 years after we made this decision and signed up, we began having quite a bit of opposition, and what we thought was a blessing, they turned into basically a monster. How terrible everything was that had anything to do with it. I had people in the county when we first started visiting with them that they said that they didn't have anything against solar. Well, that changed in the meantime. Not sure why, but that's what happened. They began to put up billboards, and just all the things that took place changed from wind to solar. Many of the things that they put out were opinions and not facts. One of them is, one of the things I heard from a county employee, we don't need the money. And I've been in county work with in McCullough County, and I've never heard anybody say we didn't need the money for the county. I heard another one say that Brooks-Smith is in a sad situation, but they need to find another way to do it, to get out of it, other than the solar deal. Well, the only thing other than that is a wind program, and nobody wants the wind deal. And actually, I joined the substation there, and I turned down 4 wind projects before we settled on the solar project. They talk about the huge footprint. They talk about 7,000 acres when it's actually 2,500. They talk about the quality of life being changed. Think about what Brooks-Smith School can do to change the lives of kids and 3 or 4 generations doing that, what that'll do to the quality of life. They said the land would be barren. We showed you pictures where grass is growing on sheep running on this property, and if not, they having to mow it. They said it costs the taxpayers, and when it actually benefits the taxpayers. They talk about the small workforce, and with only two people running a 2,500 deal, I call that efficient instead of a problem. We talked about the land values falling. I've got paperwork from a certified appraiser from just west of us where he said that that's not true. He did a full study on that. And some of us say, we don't know if it's actually real or if it's actually going to pay. Well, every county judge I talked to said, well, each one of them had more than one project, and we're looking at 2 or 3 others. So I think it must be working for somebody. About February 1st, we had, according to the commissioners court, we had 2 to 1. The commissioners asked us to do a public opinion. And February 1st, we had 2 to 1 in favor. We were told that there were 350, mostly locals, in the group that was opposing us. And apparently they got behind on their account, and they hired a polling company. And all this was secondhand to me until about 3 weeks ago, when I was confronted by a man in a restaurant, and he asked if I was a Brown County citizen. I said, yes, I was. He said, you know anything about the solar deal? I said, tell me about it. And he said, well, you know that they can't legally have an abatement with only 2 employees. Well, I said, that's not true. He said, well, Commissioner Shaw has a conflict of interest and he can't vote. I said, that's not true. He said, well, the taxpayers have to pay the balance of what the abatement takes off. I said, that's really not true. And this guy, I said, to just stop right there. I said, where are you from? He said, Cleveland. I said, who do you work for? He said, a company out of Buda, Texas. And I said, why are you getting paid $4 a person to do this? He said, yes. All right, all those were lies to me. If I were to have a house, I'm in the building business. If I were to have a house, and a new house, and built it right here in town, and put it up for sale, these people, these posters come out in the front yard and said the plumbing's no good, electricity's no good, or the foundation is no good, I couldn't sell that house. They'd be scared to death. And that's the same thing that the poll deal is, the fear factor of people signing and saying, no, I don't want this. How much time have I got?
There's 40 minutes total.
40 minutes, all right.
There's 28 left.
Well, I think, I'm gonna just fast forward to May the 11th after y'all vote. If the cons were to get the vote, what would happen? Taxes would go up. I mean, the next time y'all worked on taxes, because the only thing that keeps taxes from going up is having tax money coming in, more tax money coming in. You have to have a reason for that, something to do it, and that's what this solar deal will do. All right, and the Brooks-Smith school system will stay on poverty level as far as schools go. If you were to say yes, the school system's going to be good, you're going to get more taxes, and the landowners will be benefited also. Your position, though, there's going to be people not like what you do, whether you vote yes or no. You can vote. I mean, you're in trouble. People are going to be mad at you, yes or no. But I believe that you'll vote in the best interest of the county, of what you believe. And I thank you for that.
Thank you, Kenneth. Next, we have John Davis.
Is it a local address?
Just identify, it's a Menard address. It's up to y'all. Yeah, they got 40 minutes. If they want to spend it, spend it.
This is Brown County, excuse me, but this is for Brown County citizens' comments.
Whatever y'all want about it.
I think for time purposes that we need to limit it to actual residents of the county.
Okay.
I know that's not what you want to hear, but,
Fair time, yeah.
well, I mean, you still have the time. You just, you need to have someone who's a resident of the county to speak. It's a county issue. So.
But it's kind of me.
Again, the time is still yours. It's just, you have to adjust it.
Okay.
And I did say that at the beginning of the meeting.
What does the public notice say? What does the public notice say?
Well, we're not gonna start that, okay?
Nobody told us we couldn't come talk.
Okay, I don't think, sir, you're not in a position to talk, you know. Okay, we're not gonna start yelling out.
Okay. We can respect that. So next we have Ray Slayton, who's a local and a parent of children in the school district.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ray Slayton. I live in Precinct 1, more specifically Brooksmith. My family situation is my house is going to be completely surrounded by these solar projects if they get passed. While I and my immediate family will not benefit from this, I know my father-in-law could possibly, so I want to put that out there as well. As far as Brooksmith goes, I am a 1998 graduate of Brooksmith High School. That's where I met my wife in 1996. Her grandfather also graduated from Brooksmith High School, as well did her brother. My 3 children currently go to Brooksmith ISD, as well as my niece and my nephew. The funds from these projects could greatly increase the likelihood that Brooksmith ISD will be around. I will get to see my grandkids graduate from Brooksmith as well. I know these projects are heavily contested, and I believe that's because there's been a lack of factual information that has come out about them. Everything that we know so far has been opinion-based, is what it seems like. And I'm hoping that this forum will open the fact part of it up, and the citizens of Brown County will actually understand what we have to gain or lose here. Since this subject has come up, Mr. Adams touched on it shortly ago. You know, TILO started off as being opposed to wind, but now it's changed to they're opposed to any kind of renewable energy, it seems. Once they noticed that the tactics they were using early on weren't working, that's when they hired these people from outside the county to come in and start pulling the people of our county. My brother-in-law, who couldn't be here, was contacted by one of these subjects in an establishment that serves mainly alcohol or beer. So that leads me to believe that if they're getting these signatures in an establishment like that, do these people actually know what they're signing? Are they of the right mind to know what they're signing? The tactics have changed also to where they started making personal attacks, not just against commissioners, but some of the neighbors in Brooksmith as well. And I don't want to put all the negative out there, but there have been personal attacks, both on commissioners and us in Brooksmith. As Mr. Mickelson has announced, this would be a great blessing to Brooksmith ISD. Our kids are currently running in an area track meet right now in Blanket, Texas. We don't even have a track for our kids to practice on at Brooksmith. We have to go other places. A project like this could afford us the opportunity to build us a track. With that being said, our kids are doing excellent in track. We've got several kids moving on to regionals. This money would do great things for our community. And I think it would do great things for the county budget as well. I'm going to go ahead and cut my time off and let others speak. I don't know how many people have signed up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, John Conaway, native to Brown County and the property owner.
I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity to speak to you. Again, my name is John Conaway. I'm here today to support the Radiant Solar Project West. I believe it's in the best interest of Brown County. My wife and I live in a ranch in South Brown County, and our home is about half a mile from this proposed site. We thought long and hard about whether to participate and support this project. One bit of research I did was to investigate solar projects in other counties in Texas. A distant family member that lives in Lamar County suggested that I should look into their county's experiences with solar, which has been extremely positive. Now, if you don't know where Lamar County is, it's in Northeast Texas. Paris, Texas is the county seat. It's almost identical to Brown County in size. It has about 32% higher population than we do. Interestingly, their county's 2019 gross domestic product was about 2.9 billion, which is about 90% more than Brown County. So, they have a little more industry and stuff, yet they felt like the solar was still significant enough to them to move forward. I subsequently contacted Brandon Bell, the Lamar County judge, to get his opinion. And at this time, I'd just like to read you a letter that Judge Bell recently wrote me, conveying his experience with these solar farms in Lamar County. So this is on Lamar County letterhead from Brandon Bell, County Judge, dated April 13th, 2021. At the time I took office in January 2019, a number of solar projects had already begun in Lamar County. However, the solar farms were not a major issue in my campaign. After I took office, a new solar company approached the county government about a large project. I reached out to other counties to investigate how solar was working in other parts of Texas. I was told that the solar companies are doing what they promised to do. I was told a few residents are not happy with the way the farms looked, but otherwise the solar companies are paying property taxes on time. They're not causing any environmental concerns, and the landowners are happy with the profits they're seeing from the leases. My experience thus far has been the same. The companies that have come to Lamar County since I took office have performed as advertised. Our county negotiated a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with our largest solar project. At this point in time, I believe the county, the landowners, and the school districts have benefited from the farms. I am not a lobbyist nor a special pleader for the solar companies. The companies are not beyond reproach. As an example, a citizen living near the largest project in our county called me complaining of low water pressure caused by the construction site. The situation was quickly remedied within a day, I remember, by the construction company. Also, the construction of large-scale solar farms will cause damage to county roads. It has been my experience that the construction companies and the solar companies are willing to quickly reach a fair settlement concerning the repairs needed. This has been one county judge's experience with the companies that build solar farms. I do not have a crystal ball that shows me what will happen in the years to come, but to this point, we are generally happy with the stewardship and professionalism the companies have shown in Lamar County. If I can be of further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Brandon Bell, Lamar County Judge. What convinced us to support the solar project was the positive economic benefits it could bring to our school and the county. We do have about 5% of our ranch in the project. The lease dollars we receive will not change our lifestyle at all, but will allow us to do some improvements on the ranch that we just cannot do with revenues from cattle and farming. What it will significantly impact is our school, which has struggled financially in recent years, as you've heard. Teachers who will be hired, businesses providing services during the construction and ongoing operation, county property tax revenues that currently must be paid by the landowners and homeowners, and several good paying technical jobs which our part of the county currently does not have concerning opposition to the project. If this is based on good, solid facts, although I may not agree, I highly respect your opinion. However, if it's based on mistruths you heard from paid solicitors or one-sided points from a website run by non-residents of Brown County, I would urge you to consider the testimony of officials who have had recent experience with the benefits of solar farms to their county, such as Judge Bell. Thank y'all for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Next, we have Taryn Keever. Taryn.
And joined the switching station there. Not under contract with these folks, I'm under contract with Northern, another project that's going on down there. And so my suggestions are from a personal standpoint. I'm coming up on my 75th birthday, and 100 acres are next to the switch station. And I can't for the life of me understand who in this room or in this county has the authority or the right to take away over $100,000 a year annuity that I'll get from selling solar energy off of my place. And so it's rather personal to me that who has that authority. As an American, I grew up there. I've been my family's been in this country. My great-granddad was a Texas Ranger, been here since 1877. And so I'm not an outsider, I'm part of the landscape. But I do believe that I have a right to receive the money that'll come in the form of royalties to me. Another point I'd like to make in regard to tax abatements, that piece of land that I own is worth about $1 million. And the taxes on it's about $800. All our agricultural land is under a tax abatement. That's all it amounts to. If they want to tax it and without an abatement, if you please, the tax ought to be worth what the tax should be, what its value is, not what is a fraction of a dollar per acre on that land. So that's another thing. And the only thing I can think of, people that oppose it probably are people of quite wealthy or wherewithal. And so I don't understand what the reason is that they don't want the rest of us to share the wealth as well. This is America, and we have a right to do with our land what we want to. And so I appreciate your time.
Is Terry Egger.
For letting us come up here and express our opinions for both sides. My take on this deal is I've been in the construction business for a long time, been in this county for a long time. This company's going to come in here and they're going to try to hire local of every sort in this county. They've told us that again. They're going to be looking for electrical contractors to come out and do sub work. One, they're going to hire 3 to 4 so they can get this project put in a timely fashion. That's 3 to 4 electrical contractors in this county that's going to benefit. That's where some of your jobs are going to come from. They're going to be local guys that are getting paid by the hour to do this. And then they're going to have utility companies are going to come out here. This stuff's going to be underground. You're going to have utility contractors. We have several of those in Brown County. They're going to need road bores done. We got some boring contractors here in this county that are going to benefit from this. We have dirt contractors here that are going to benefit from this. They're going to clear the land. We got fencing contractors in Brown County that's going to benefit from this. Y'all vote yes for the people that are going to benefit from this county. Thank you.
apologize for the misunderstanding earlier. We didn't mean to undercut the court by any means. We legitimately thought we could bring in additional speakers that maybe didn't live in the county. But that said, we thank you again for allowing us this time to speak. I want to make sure, will you just double check that I didn't miss anybody on that list? I did, say no.
Levi Ringler.
Yeah, Levi lives just from Texas, just lives outside the county. He works for Signal, the company that would be building the project. Thought he would offer a unique perspective, but out of respect for the court here, Levi will chill. So thank you again so much, and happy to answer any questions later on. But we'll cede our time. Thanks.
You only use 30 or 40 minutes.
Yep.
And so if you would like the two folks that signed up that were not allowed to speak, you can.
Okay. Hey, John. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sorry again for any confusion there. With this, but okay. Thank you, Judge Billy. Good evening, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you again tonight. I spoke at the County Commissioners last time. Anyway, my name is Sean Davis. I'm proud to say that I'm an energy rancher from Menard, Texas. Our ranch is a little over an hour southwest from here. I'm also a member of the advisory board of the Conservative Texans for Energy Innovation. It's a group of Texans that advocates for all the above approach to energy with a focus on free market competition. As conservatives, we want to make sure our energy policies aren't driven by a desire to control our behavior, such as telling what kind of truck you can drive or you can or can't drive, but by desire to grow our economy free from government intrusion and intervention and giving private landowners the right to produce their own energy. I'd like to share with you a personal story of how renewable energy project just 2 counties over in Menard has helped to save my family's ranch. I'm a 6th generation Texan, and I've been entrusted with my family's legacy in a ranch in Menard. It's called Pecan Spring Ranch, and it was founded by my great-great-grandparents, Johann and Johanna Wilhelm, who immigrated from Germany in 1880. But they founded the ranch in 1880. Over time, Pecan Spring Ranch has developed a strong reputation for quality cattle, sheep, and goats. And today I sell many of the meat at farmers markets throughout Texas. And also Pecan Spring Ranch is a Texas Century ranch, having been owned and operated by my family for over 100 years. 3 years ago, my family partnered with a wind company to provide ranch acreage for a part of the Cactus Flats wind farm. It's a project that generates 148 megawatts of wind power and provides power to a variety of customers, including the General Motors plant in Arlington, Texas. And this project is likely the largest taxpayer for Concho County. As a result of this partnership, financial resources from that project are providing the working capital for the operations and maintenance of our ranching business. The project, my wife and I have begun restoration of many of the historical structures on the original ranch. I'm thrilled that my children and my grandkids will still want to have that part of our family legacy and keep it in the family. I know there are a lot of rural Texans who are not as fortunate as we are. They've been forced to sell off part of all of their family's history just to get by. Nor is every Texan blessed with oil and gas royalties or family wealth. These renewable project partnerships enable more rural Texans an opportunity to protect and preserve their way of life. In Texas, private property rights are important to all. As a responsible landowner, I am the best steward of my family's ranching legacy. There's no one better positioned than me to take care of our family's ranching business. In addition to being a rancher, I'm also a former Republican member of the Texas legislature. I had the privilege of serving, an honor of serving in the Texas House for 16 years. I'm telling you all of this because for 4 of those years, I served as chairman of the House Economic and Small Business Development Committee. And our job was to ensure that the Texas business climate was second to none and that opportunities abounded for all those who were willing to work hard. I'm also proud to tell you that I was co-author of the original legislation that created chapters 312 and 313 tax abatement from back in 2001. This is the program that many folks here tonight claim to be experts on, but in reality, they're misinformed and are spreading falsehoods about the tax abatement program. We started the tax abatement program as a way to incentivize investment in Texas, and the program has helped to make Texas the envy of the nation in terms of economic growth. In addition, the program has been an economic lifeline to many rural communities across Texas. The financial benefits of the Radiant Solar project are laid out before you, and you should carefully consider them. As fiduciaries of taxpayer dollars, you all will decide what's in the best interest of your constituents. The bottom line is that the project either works for your community financially from day one or it doesn't. But from what I've read, it starts working for the community on day one and it keeps on going. I'm not here to try to convince you which way to vote, but for those of you who may believe the company is that was coming without the tax abatement, I'd like to strongly disavow you of this notion and ask you to learn from the mistakes made by some rural counties across Texas. Just recently, Ganado ISD Board in Jackson County turned down a $500 million project, very similar to the one before you. In doing so, they turned down millions of dollars that would have directly benefited over 700 local school kids. The project went elsewhere to a community that wanted economic development and local investment. And I say, make no mistake about it, the company will go elsewhere without the incentive. From my personal experience, I can confirm that our partnership with renewable energy has been a win-win, and I hope Brown County has the judgment and the foresight to accept it. To me, I think I have wind turbines at my ranch. If I could have solar, I would say bring it on. I mean, to me, I believe it's like manna from heaven. And for me, being from rural Texas, I raise sheep and goats out there. I'm fighting coyotes and trying to survive. And to get a stable source of income is a blessing. If I can have that, I don't have to mark those. I don't have to mark them or feed them or anything. And it generates revenue that helps me to restore my family's ranch. And I just think it's, as I was telling Judge Lilly earlier, people being a former state representative elected to the people hire us, the constituents, for our judgment, and they rely on our judgment. You listen to the facts, both sides, but at the end of the day, they rely on your past experience and your judgment to make the best decision that's best for your community. So I ask y'all just to, if I were in your shoes, it'd be an easy call. Thank you for your time.
I think we have a couple minutes left here. Samuel Davis from the Land and Liberty Coalition. Do you want to speak?
Thank you all so much for being such great hosts to all of us. Seriously, I really appreciate it. My name is Samuel Davis. Good evening. I'm with the Texas Land and Liberty Coalition. We're a statewide nonprofit, organization that we focus on protecting the private property rights of farming and ranching families like my own, who recognize the benefits of renewable energy projects and what they can bring to their communities. We've spoken on private property rights tonight. We've spoken about rural economic development, but I also want to say that this is American energy independence. It's Texan energy independence, actually. We have enough sun to go around, and if it can convert it into usable energy to share and sell with neighboring Texans for the lowest of energy costs, then that sounds like a win-win for the supplier, consumer, citizens of the county, school district, landowners. The more domestic solar energy that we use as a country and as a state, the less we will need to rely on foreign imports of carbon-based fossil fuels, contributing to greater economic, political, and environmental stability. There's 5 nearby counties. And there's 10 solar projects already in the ground or expected to be operational very soon. Just give me a minute warning if I'm in a minute or whatever. It's like The projects combined are bringing 138 million to local taxing entities and 150 million to local landowners. I state these numbers because these projects are already there and you may not even know that they are there and your neighbors are reaping the benefits of them. They are just as much a cash crop as any herd of livestock or farming endeavor. They literally are hidden gems. My dad and I were taking some cows to market today and we're like, man, this sure is a lot of work. This is not that. So I just, those against this project, I mean, I respect it, but you have only your pride to lose. If the project does not go forward, then they will not give this another thought. If the project does go forward, they will not give this another thought. I'm really, these landowners and the citizens, they have something to gain or to lose. Lease payments have kept our family's ranch family, and they will continue to do that to provide a guaranteed revenue stream to that school district, to y'all's school district, to your landowners, and to your county's residents. So much for your time, guys. I'm probably over, but sure love all of you. See ya.
Thank you, Samuel. I think we're pretty close to the end. I don't want to cut Levi short here. He represents Signal Energy, who's our partner, who would be the company building the project. Maybe afterwards, if anybody wants to talk to him about what it's like to actually be on site building a project, we can do that. But I think we're out of time here. Thank you again so much for everything.
Thank you for your presentation. We will now go to the those that are against the project. TILO has provided a list of speakers in the specific order they would like to go in. And first is Jeff Tucker.
I know that time is a precious commodity, and I applaud both sides of this room for being here tonight to give their opinions. But I'd also like to tell the Commissioners Court, I really appreciate you taking the extra effort to come here in the evening to allow all of our neighbors to sit and talk, no matter what their position is. So, kudos to you, round of applause to you for that. We appreciate it. My name is Jeff Tucker. I'm a small landowner here in Brown County. Only have been for about 12 years. But I'm really kind of here to present one thing before the beginning of the conversation on our half. We're citizens too. TILO is just a name, and what we are is a group of concerned citizens that will address things such as the tax abatement issue, or address things such as the pros and cons of renewable. Me personally, I'm not against solar. Matter of fact, we're designing a solar array for my personal business right now. But I'm not for solar where it doesn't make common sense and fiscal sense. So we can debate those specific issues and specific data, and certainly without misinformation to garner an opinion. I do want to speak specifically to one thing to open up our side of the conversation tonight, because there's been a lot of misinformation about individuals who have been hired to come in and blanket the county to find out where other citizens stand on the issue. And this is a very reputable company out of Buda, Texas, yes, and their Texas State Petition services that have been used by this county for decades. This is nobody new. They were brought in here to do the referendum on whether or not the county should remain dry or wet. They've been brought in when Ranger College was looking at bringing in a nursing school downtown. So they've been used for a variety of things here, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And I think it's to help glean. If you look tonight, there's not 1,800 people in the room, but certainly by that petition, over 1,800 people have been recognized as to their opinion on this abatement issue. And we're still not finished with signatures. So I think that's pretty standard way to approach getting information. This is also recognized both the state and federal laws as to how they can approach and develop that information for signatures for you to glean and decide whether or not this is actually even a citizen of the county. They have to be
a citizen of the county. They have to be able to be registered here in this county to give that information. If they're not, they're taken off the rolls. I think the other thing too is this is a Brown County issue. This is not just an issue for a small portion of Brown County. This is not merely an issue for 12 private landowners. This affects the entire county. And not only is there one particular development being done right now, there's another right behind it. So it's not just 2,500 acres. It turns into 6,000 in the blink of an eye. And we know for a fact that this is being sought in other areas, in other districts of the county. So that's why we take this abatement issue very seriously, because once you open this box, it's going to be really hard to close it. I think too, when you get down to, well, short-term versus long-term, that's really what we're talking about here. You know, what are the short-term gains, even for a school? What are the long-term gains? And what are the cause and effects of the decisions being made by this Commissioner's Court? And that's what we would ask you to look at. We would ask you to look at the number of your citizens and neighbors, whether pro or con, as to where they stand. And we'd ask you to represent their vote, because that's how you were put into office. You were elected to represent constituents. And so we ask you to look at that, and we ask it respectfully. We ask if you have a conflict of interest of any kind to pull yourself out of that vote. Outside of that, I think the final thing I'd like to say is, you know, I applaud the efforts being made by any industry that comes into this county, but it has to make sense both in a fiscal way and a common sense approach if it has adverse effect to something as precious as a commodity as land. We are not against private land rights. I'm all for them. But you know, the funny thing is, if I want to dig a septic tank on my land, I've got to go down to the county courthouse and apply for it. No one is an island unto themselves in this county. So again, we thank you for your time, and I'll just see the rest of my time for the next meeting.
Sure. Thank you. Greg Stackett.
Lord. I have to say, I was interested in Mr. Davis's rendition of the ranching business in Menard. I wish he would have maybe explained that he's a lobbyist and that little job that helps support the ranching operation pays about $200,000 a year. So he was probably able to drive himself to the sale barn. But anyway, it's our good business. The benefits, you know, from the solar, they're small and they're short-lived compared to the long-term effect of these solar farms. No question about it. It's going to be sitting there a long time on largely misused or unused land. Radian, followed by Mustang Mountaineer, they want a huge tax abatement. They've already come back and they said, well, at least Radian says I'll cut it down in half, practically. I doubt if Mustang would be right behind them and take that after we open the floodgates to bring it in and give it tax abatements for this sort of thing. I have a small business, like many of you in this room, and I'd like to have a tax abatement. I certainly employ more full-time employees than either of these projects. In fact, they get the third one going over in the Blanket Zephyr area, that's only another 2, so that goes to 6 employees. Well, I'm more than that, and I don't expect a tax abatement. In fact, I'd be embarrassed to ask for it. I went into this business for profit, like they are in the business for a profit. They already get huge subsidies from the federal level. Why do they have to come here for subsidies from the county as well? And I think that's a major point. I mean, no one's saying that a landowner can't put them on their land. That's not the issue here. That's not the issue. The issue is who's paying for it. And they say, well, we're not paying for it. Well, pay the full tax value. You can afford it. You're already getting a ton of money. You're in business to make a profit on it. You're not a public or a welfare thing. You're already getting the welfare. You don't need to get it from our county. We can use, if you talk about this abatement. I mean, I have struggled with that from the very beginning. The question in my mind is why? Because they come and ask for it? Is that enough reason? Anybody in here to come up and say, just give it to me? Why? Well, it makes no difference. I just want it. I want it. That is not enough for me. Let me remind the court that this is not one project. When they went over and received the okay from Brooksmith, that was one project. And I'm telling you what, there was another one right on their tail, right there. And here comes the second one right behind it. So they double the size of it. And next thing you know, they're over another part of the county and there's the third. Where and when does this stop? There's no stopping to it. We can fill up the county with anything you want. You can give all the abatements they want. Why? Because they asked. Is that enough? Why? I just can't figure that part out. They can go from 6,000 to 9,000 to 12,000 to however many acres. Who knows? When I look over to the east of here, just from the wind, they've ruined Comanche County. They've ruined, in my mind, they've ruined Mills County. I don't want to be part of that. County should be part of it. And I don't think we ought to pay for it through allowing abatements. If they're going to come, all these people, they have the right, put it on the property, have them pay the taxes, and then we can kind of go ahead. I don't want it, but that isn't our ability, or we shouldn't be saying that. That's property rights. Land values, marketability, pleasant place to live. And I just have to laugh. It's a fairy tale to me when they say, well, this doesn't hurt the value of the land, being next door to that. Who are you kidding? I don't care what kind of research you get on that. If you don't think that, first of all, they've said it about the wind turbine. Does anybody believe that? Anywhere? Does anyone believe that your land is as valuable next door to a wind farm or a solar farm? If you're on the fence line, are you going to go out and buy a piece of property and build a house next to a solar farm? I don't believe it. I don't believe it, and I don't believe that anybody really believes that. However, the courts, if the court votes no, you'll send a message to these companies that Brown County isn't for sale. We're not open for business, and I think that's really important. We don't need them, and I don't think we want them. As you realize, as elected officials, you've all said, and I appreciate that I've spoken with have said, well, I want to know what the people think. I want to know what they think, because that's why they voted me in. That's the way I'm going to vote from my constituents. Well, I expect that you'll hear here tonight, and I think you'll realize there's a heck of a lot more people that don't want this than do. I wish them the best of luck. They put it on their land. These people can darn well afford it. Let them pay the tax, and let's go forward. Thank you for your time.
Next, we'll hear from Josh Stickles.
Hold the microphone.
Commissioners, Brown County residents, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Josh Sigmuller, and I am a full-time real estate broker at Donnie Sigmuller Realtors. I was born and raised in Brown County and have been selling real estate here for over 20 years. My wife and I have chose to raise our family here and call Brown County our home, and it's been a real blessing for us. I have been involved in all types of real estate, but my specialty is farm and ranch real estate. I have marketed and sold many ranches in Brown and surrounding counties over the past 2 decades. Most days I'm either looking at land, showing land, or at least talking to landowners. I have seen property values increase over the past 20 years, along with the demand for land in Brown County. This increase in demand and property values is due to the following. Brown County is centrally located in the northern hill country. We have a close proximity to other major markets, but far enough to feel remote. Lake Brownwood remains the main attraction and asset to our community, adding to the recreational value of our county. Knowing how good we have it with higher property values, increased demand for our land, there is no reason to vote yes for a solar or wind tax abatement. The first questions asked of me while marketing a ranch for sale is, can you see turbines from this ranch? Are there overhead power lines near or on the property? Are there any easements going through the ranch? The point is, buyers avoid properties that have these issues associated with them. The solar farm, in my opinion, will cause the same concerns due to the fact buyers fear the future expansion of these solar farms encroaching on their property. The same fear they have with the wind turbines. Uncertainty about these eyesores spook buyers right out of the gate, and they avoid counties and ranches that are associated with these solar and wind turbine projects. I have had personal experience marketing ranches for sale that have had turbines on neighboring ranches. Due to the proximity of the turbines, the ranches were unable to be shown or unable to sell those properties, period. To this day, they still remain unsellable. I have real estate colleagues in Mills County who tell me the abatement was given. It opened the door to all different alternative energy companies. The wind farms have spread like a cancer. They have seen property values decrease and demand for their land has gone down. Their heritage of who they are as a county has forever been changed. They have nothing to hand down to future generations. Mills County has been dog-eared as a wind turbine county, along with Comanche and McCullough, and this cannot happen in Brown County. We have to hold the line. We have a duty and a calling to protect this land for future generations, as it cannot be replaced. As othering neighbor counties have opted and voted to devalue their land, Brown County must stay strong. Because others have done it is all the more reason why we cannot. Brown County has the opportunity to remain sacred and remain the oasis that we are. We won't have an opportunity to hit the reset button once the wind and solar industries come here. So commissioners, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to really brag on Brown County and all that it has to offer. I have been asked to represent the voice of the overwhelming majority of the Brown County realtors. There's many realtors here, several offices, as you all know, and due to time restraints, I'm just going to read a few remarks from some of the realtors. This is from Van Stanford with Mark Campbell and Associates. I have been a local business owner, active member in local government, and now an active real estate agent with 10 years of experience. I have seen firsthand the negative impact that the wind power has had on land values, and I believe solar farms will have the same negative impact on land values. Not only does the proximity to these projects affect land values, but the negative anticipation of future projects also influence property values. Brown County residents must understand the perceived gain from these projects will be lost to the devaluation of property values. I strongly recommend commissioners vote no to any tax abatements for wind or solar projects. Last but not least, Elvin Hutchins. I am Elvin Hutchins, owner of Texas Realty, and I have been in the real estate business for 20 years in Brown County. It is my strong opinion that wind turbines and solar farms will affect property values in Brown County substantially. The majority of my clients searching for land will not look at a property with wind or solar farms on it or in the vicinity. I have spoken to several real estate agents in adjoining counties that have wind turbine farms, and they have noticed decreased land values. I urge Brown County commissioners to vote no for any tax abatements for wind turbines and or solar farms. Sincerely, Elvin Hutchins.
Thank you. Next we'll hear from Kendra Clardy.
My name is Kendra Clarity, and I'm from Early, Texas, and I graduated from Texas Tech in 2013 with a degree in natural resource management with a concentration in conservation science. I went on to do some quail research for a number of years. And then for the past 6.5 years, I've been doing work at an environmental consulting company as a biologist. I've conducted many surveys for a variety of projects, including energy. These include wetland surveys, threatened and endangered species surveys, environmental site assessments, and stormwater pollution prevention plans, and also avian mortality surveys underneath wind turbines. My job has given me the amazing opportunity to see so much beautiful Texas land. So I usually go out and I survey what is there, how a project will impact it, and help guide clients on how to minimize impacts. For every construction, there is a before, during, and after, and I would like to give insight to each step because that is how I see these projects and that's how I experience them. So before, regardless of what I find on these projects, they are built. So long as they get permits and they work with the appropriate regulating agencies, it almost doesn't matter what's found on the land, there's a way to build it. Sometimes it personally makes me a little bit sad to see so much beautiful land beforehand and knowing in the back of my mind how it will change. I know that the giant oak tree I'm standing next to will be cut down because there is no protection for that tree. Also for game animals, there's no usual protection. Usually it's only threatened and endangered species that has protection. And even those, most of the time, you're not actually going to see one of those animals on a piece of land. There's just a likelihood that they won't be there, but they could be there. So that's how they phrase that. Something to note is that solar does not have a regulating authority to answer to like oil and gas does for the Texas Railroad Commission. These solar farms do have to get permits beforehand to construct the projects, permits for upkeep, but there is no overall authority to answer to. Other than, once again, the agencies that regulate either water or the Texas or the threatened endangered species. So during the construction project, something to consider is most project constructions I see occurring is temporary construction. So there might be some changes take place and some permanent structures are installed on land. But for the most part, once construction is done, the land is revegetated and restored to pre-construction conditions. However, this is not the case with solar. Once construction happens, it is a permanent change. The panels pull and cover the entire area. So, an example of something I saw was one time I was on a wind farm that was being constructed in South Texas, where the company that owned the farm went bankrupt a few months into construction. One week, the third-party contractors were there, and the next week, they were gone. It took until the following year for another buyer to buy that farm, and then I was back on the project to monitor the installation. I asked one of the landowners what he was planning to do if the project didn't get bought by another company. He said he would have had a lot of holes in the ground for stock tanks and swimming pools. He then grew serious and he said he didn't know it was a mess. He had livestock and big game animals to worry about falling into these holes that had rebar and concrete at the bottom of them. And he was trying to get a hold of anybody to see what the status is, but since the company was bankrupt, he couldn't get a hold of who technically owned it, who was going to buy it next. No one had any answers for him. He said ultimately he was happy that it did get resolved. Another company did buy it, and construction continued. While this example is of a wind project, it could just as easily happen to a solar company, especially a company that has to rely upon tax abatements. There's a chance that the company you work with now will not be the owners of the solar farm for its entire existence. Another part of my job is to conduct surveys after a project is built to see how it will affect the land and how the land is restoring itself. I've actually never conducted a follow-up on a solar farm because there is no environment to conduct surveys on. Something I know that takes place is vegetation control. The companies will say that native grasses will be restored, and while some grasses could return, the height allowed of these native grasses, or they could have sheep and goats on to the land, damage any of their components to grow to a certain height, because that will attract unwanted that could damage or affect the production. It's routinely used. It should be taken into account how this could be carried by the watersheds to surrounding properties. There is another part to after, which is ongoing upkeep. I was on a wind project that was replacing their blades and turbines to newer technology, and the owner of this wind farm had a serious debate to leave their old components underneath the wind turbines. The company did make the decision to haul these old components off. I give this example because solar farms to where new enough to our landscape to where they haven't had to do any of these big repowering projects to where what do they do with all of their panels that need replacing? It is not a matter of when. It's not a matter of when. Well, it's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when they will go bad. So if they're lucky, they'll have maybe 20 years before they need a total repowering. But over time, there will be a few panels that get damaged or need replacement. Left on site, or will they end up in Brown County landfill, or will another section of land be used to store these, such as we see in that are storing the cut up wind turbine blades and generators. So will they be hauled off to another section of land, or will they be hauled off to another county for someone else's problem? Like wind turbine blades and the generators, panels are made of mixed materials that are not easily broken down to be recycled. Panels are composed of some toxic materials such as lead that can leach out and create a whole new, different environmental hazard. So how green is solar when it is all added up? I believe every energy source has its own place. So I'm not against solar, but I am against solar when they are constructed on a large scale in a farm format. Especially when this format of this land could be used for so many different other things. Once the solar farm is built, it is forever changed. The land, it's essentially like turning it into a parking lot. Nothing is meant to live or grow there. It is just there for the panels. There will be no other use. So instead of solar farm being built on large scale on rural land that is often far away from what is actually being powered, I think solar is best utilized being built on top of or very near existing structures they will actually power. Solar has no business being built on a large scale, which destroys all other uses for land. The storage technology to date is just not to the point of where it needs to be. Yes, I think progress should be made, but let's make wise choices for where that progress is best utilized. out of all, or overall, what can solar actually bring to our county? Money to certain people and to the school. A few jobs, but far less than you would think to actually maintain the structures. So most jobs brought in during construction will just be temporary. Some alternative energy will also be brought in. Byproduct waste. And what will solar take from the county? It will take woody vegetation, disruption to the existing watersheds, wildlife habitat, good agriculture land, livestock grazing, and hunting. I was so fortunate to be raised in Brown County. The ability to explore the land and see how landowners practice a give and take balance to having healthy, vital land gave me a passion to pursue a career in biology and conservation. So I hope future generations will have that same ability to actually see the land, see how it's being balanced and healthily being used for future generations. So thank you for your time.
Next is Terry Blevins.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna let Steve and Bill go before me and I'll close after them.
Okay. Steve, Bill.
Thank you, Judge Lilly. Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I want to talk to you about my perspective and maybe give you a little context of how I think about this project, but not as it relates just to this project, but how it relates to the county as a whole. And I know that Intersect has said that this is a standalone project and it doesn't set a precedent for future projects. But I would submit to you that with between 2/3 and 80% of the future tax payments going to one school district, I think it'd be very difficult for this court or anyone who might be sitting in these chairs in the future to vote against another proposed project that met all the appropriate criteria if that project benefited the Brownwood Independent School District or the Early Independent School District or the Bangs Independent School District or any other of the school districts that exist in this county. So while I appreciate that you're considering one project this evening, I do think that the implications of this consideration are maybe a little more broad than some would suggest. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about maybe a constituency of property owners in Brown County that quite frankly, some people may not think a whole lot of, but I think they are an important property owner constituency. And I want to do it in the context of really sort of giving you my views on what drives value in rural ranch real estate in Brown County. There's been a lot of discussion about this project. Intersect says on their website that the location of the project has lower quality soils that impair its use for higher value agricultural purposes. I suggest that might describe a reasonable portion of the entire rural real estate in Brown County. Brown County is unique. It's unique given its location. It's unique given its aesthetic attributes. And frankly, it's unique given its proximity to the Metroplex, to the Austin, San Antonio corridor, and to the Permian Basin. And because of those attributes in that location, it's a prime destination for the recreational rural real estate owner. And I know Intersect has made the statement on their website that large solar arrays based on studies have no detrimental effect to adjacent property owners. And they say that in some cases they may in fact increase the value of adjacent property. I would suggest to you, as Josh Stegmuller said earlier, that's not the case with respect to recreational rural real estate. I've seen the location of some of the other Intersect projects in the state of Texas. I spent almost the entirety of my career in Midland, and I can tell you that with one project basically halfway between Snyder and Lamesa, and one project between Pecos and El Paso, I don't know of anyone who was looking at those locations as a place to buy their recreational real estate. So I would submit to you that that environment is very different than the environment that we have here in Brown County. And rural recreational real estate owners are sort of by definition mobile. And I think given the option, they would choose to go to a place where there's more certainty around the possibility of the development of alternative energy projects, be they wind or solar. The other thing I want to talk to you about, I worry a little bit about the derivative impact of alternative energy projects. I worry about the loss of that recreational ranch real estate owner. My family's been in Brown County since the 1800s. I moved back here full-time in 2009. Candidly, I began as a part-time recreational real estate owner in Brown County. I have friends who are here, owners of property in Brown County. They're not full-time residents. Their recreational real estate is here. They still have careers in other cities. But those folks support this community. They build things. They buy things from local vendors. They support local charitable organizations, and they do so over the long haul. If you don't believe me, you can ask organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, like the Buckmasters American Deer Foundation, like the Brown County Fair Association, like the Lyric Theater. These folks, most or many of whom are part-time residents, support these local organizations with their wallets. And I appreciate that in its materials, Intersect says that in other counties in which they have projects, they support the local fire department and they provide educational opportunities for kids in school through tours of the site or through STEM learning opportunities. But I would submit to you, that's not the kind of philanthropic support that pays the bills for those organizations. I have no issue at all. I don't begrudge the Brooks-Smith Independent School District one bit for supporting this project. I think the opportunity to receive additional funding is something that I think the superintendent and the school board of Brooks-Smith Independent School District would be derelict in their duties and responsibilities to the kids of their district if they didn't support it. So it's not about whether this project should be done to the benefit or detriment of one school district or another. This is about, in my view, a generational decision about what's this county look like, not just for us, but what does it look like for our children and for our grandchildren. So I don't want to be overly dramatic about the import of the decision that you're being asked to make, but I do think it's a little more complicated and it's a little more significant than just deciding on what you're going to do about a tax abatement on 2,600 acres in southern Brown County. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Next, we'll hear from Scholar Moody.
Well, I'll keep it nice and short. Thank you, commissioners and people of Brown County for hosting this meeting tonight. My name's Sky Mabey. I'm a Brown County resident, no fancy background, no big college, just hard work's all I've ever known. My wife and I sold our place in Blanket and purchased a home in acreage this last year in Brooks-Smith. Speaking as a family that wants to make this area our home in future, I'm against this proposal. This county should encourage people to want to come here, not want to leave. I paid good money for my place, my money, that I worked hard for. I'm 27, so the likelihood of me staying in the same house until I pass is slim. So whenever I do get ready to sell, depending on where I want to go, I don't want to be, it won't be worth near what I gave for it due to this project. And that is my opinion. Also, I grew up here. I stayed here because it's my kind of Texas. I would have moved to Sweetwater or further west to see turbines or solar farms, but I didn't for a reason. To clear the land, granted it's not mine to say anything about, it just blows me away how you can be okay with that. Land is one thing that you cannot make more of, no matter what it pays a month. I've heard this would improve the small town of Brooks-Smith. but I feel like it would keep people away. No one would want to buy land and build a home for their family next to a solar farm or anywhere in the vicinity. I personally feel like if it is passed, this will not be the end of energy projects, only the start. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Terry Blevins.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. On that's left. Well, I'm Terry Blevins. Commissioners and Judge, I would urge you that you not just listen, but hear me and see the crowd and know that the overwhelming majority of the public is opposed to this project. There's many different reasons for opposition, and I thank you for the time allotted, minute and a half, to outline the perspective of the average resident, property owner, and business owner. I have a history of business ownership in this community, and I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in property tax as my fair share. I'm gonna have to skip around since I've got 10 minutes worth here, but let's do this. From Julius Caesar comes the term divide and conquer. You win by getting one's opponents to fight amongst themselves. IP Radion has our community divided so that they can save money. I'm gonna say that again. IP Radion has our community divided so that they can save money. They can win the corporate war of maximizing our profits at our expense. The minute and a half is not really enough, but suffice it to say that it's simply not fair. I had 10 minutes worth, and I was quiet when y'all were speaking. Please give me the same courtesy. Oh, that's the time. Thank you.
We will now have a portion where questions will be. Yes, sir.
I filled out a card today.
Okay, and what is your name, sir?
Oh, my goodness.
Each side was given a
We had
designated.
our first 40 minutes.
Yes, sure. Yes, we have.
It won't take me 2 minutes.
I don't think it hurt anything for you to speak for 2 minutes.
What about the rest of us?
Anybody else who's filled out a piece of paper? Okay.
I
you're
filled
good.
out a piece of paper.
No. Okay.
This one.
You filled out a piece of paper. If anybody that's standing up has filled out a piece of paper, we're gonna allow them. Right here, I've got it. You've got 2 minutes, sir. Hurry
I'm
up.
sorry, people. I hope I didn't disturb anybody. I think I'm older than any speaker that's been up here. I'll be 80 this fall. Anyway, so much about my background. We've been here since 1857. But I'm not talking about that. There are certain aspects of solar and wind energy that are, to me, totally undesirable. One is the fact that they are subsidized by the United States of America. Does anybody here pay federal tax? Anybody pay federal tax? You are going to pay for this because some very wealthy people invest in it. Now they're getting a huge tax credit that comes off the top of their income, the total amount. You know, if it is economically viable, let it stand on its own. You know, if 45% of property tax is good, 100% is better. For the whole county, we are facing terribly uncertain economic future with our current president and administration. For example, did you know that
Mr.
solar panels
Mr. McGinnis.
use rare earth minerals.
Right, I gave you 2 minutes. That's
Okay,
right.
okay, I'll go.
Thank you very
They
much.
all come from China.
Dean Clements.
I'm one of those contractors that Barry was talking about. I own a boring machine. Y'all knows me. I live in his branch. I'm not against these solar farms, people. I'm for them. I've worked on them. But I strongly suggest, actually, I caution our commissioners and our county judge and our county attorney to hold these gentlemen accountable for everything that they promise. Get as much as you can from these companies that are gonna come if these guys come. I'm not against you. I'm all for them. Brooksmith is gonna benefit. But you guys get everything that you can for the county. Everything. 55%, I'm gonna tell you, if they're gonna come, ask Sterling City. They got everything. New fire department, new high school, everything. Hold their feet to the fire and they will pay you. If they wanna come, they will pay you. I'm all for the solar. I've worked on Oberon. I've worked on the Long Jaw project. Be very careful. Please, I'm owed $125,000 and I'm for the solar.
Mr. Clement, thank you.
Just please hold them accountable and please get everything that you can from these guys. It means everything to the county.
Stephen Wilson.
I'm confused. Oh, you got to do what Shane's doing here.
You managed our time.
Shane.
Hey, listen, they're not part of an organization. The organization signed up. If there were individuals on your side, we would have allowed them to
I
speak.
understand, but we were organized and not
Okay.
to stay with
Hurry up.
I'd like to thank y'all for having this meeting tonight, and letting the citizens speak. I am against the abatements. I think it's bigger than the county. I would like to see y'all vote, a unanimous vote, and, let us help our neighbors and help the state of Texas and send a clear message that we're against these type of abatements, they're type of the federal subsidies and the state subsidies. I appreciate y'all's time.
And last is Robert. He can't know how to write his last name.
I just like to.
Okay, what is it?
Green, just like color. Yeah, all right, I'll be quick. I'm gonna read the notes. In a nutshell, I keep hearing Brooksmith. I've got 3 neighbors. I live out there. Height problem. All right, in a nutshell, I live out around Zephyr High SD. I live out between Zephyr and Blanket. I too have a great granddad that was a Texas Ranger. We've been here since 1886, same land, haven't left, which I take care of it. I have 3 neighbors that I've talked to that are literally just right down, boom, boom, boom from me. They have been approached by, representatives from other solar energy companies. One of them was actually asked, hey, can we use your land as a go-between? Because there's a fellow that's got a huge chunk of property to my southwest, and I'm neighbored with him to the north. And that was a land that they said was being talked about. That's Zephyr, that's not Brooksmith. When some of these other people said, hey, we're looking at, just 2,500 acres, well, it never stops there. You open this door, you're going to open it up, and a whole bunch of messes. Hey, I got my 2 sons back there. I should have had hold up signs. Like I said, they're the 6th generation of us to live here. I've got to try to make certain that whatever we do, I leave them as best as I can. We work, we have been school teachers and preachers for the most part of the Green's existence here. My mother's a Bechtold, if you need to know anything else about me. All right, last and not least, I was going to say this. Let's always go to the good book. What profit a man to gain the whole earth, but to lose his soul? Thank you.
Questions were presented, written questions were presented. And now Mr. Bass will answer those.
My name is Bob Bass. I'm an attorney with Allison Bass McGee in Austin. We've been retained by Brown County to represent them in the 312 process. The questions that I've received, in all candor, are not necessarily legal questions. They're seeking clarification of some aspects of the factual understanding. So I will read the questions, and if it's something within my ability to answer, I will try to do that. First question, currently the 3,000 acres of land proposed for the solar farm has an assessed value of about $37 million, according to the IP rating application to Brooks Smith ISD. There is considerable tax revenue from this land for Brown County. It could be upwards of $100,000 per year. If this is true, just how much of an economic incentive is the proposed solar farm if they are willing to only pay $150,000 in county taxes? I'm not sure about the details of that. I've not seen the 313 application with the school district. I have personally taken the parcels of land that are in the 312 application, county's application, and the value, appraised value of that land is about right at $6.7 million. After you take 5.9 of ag exempt values away from that, there's only about $744,540 of appraised. The average, if you take those parcels, the average ag exemption, not all of them get the full exemption. Some are not ag exempt at all, but the average is an 87.6. Call it a tax abatement. It's called a tax exemption, but it's 87.6. So it's a considerable benefit as ag exempt to the landowners not having to pay full appraised value. The revenue to the county off of that is only about $4,300 out of that $744,000 net evaluation. If the solar project comes in, the ag exemption typically goes away because the land is no longer being used for ag purposes. It's being used for a commercial purpose. So the exemption goes away. So there's going to be a net gain to the county of about $34,000 annually from the difference between the ag exempt and the full tax value. Over the 10 years or 7 years, I haven't calculated it, but $343,000 roughly in addition to the actual pilot payments would be in the form of the recoupment of the difference between the ag value and the straight value, appraised value. I don't represent the landowners, but I have generally talked about the terms of their leases, and the leases have a provision that the developer or the project will pay the difference. So it doesn't cost the taxpayer that owns the land any more tax. The difference from losing the tax exemption for the ag exemption is paid by the project. There is an additional rollback recoupment that the county gets for 3 years. It's going to be between $94,000 and $102,000 in the rollback recapture. So the net over the project is going to be roughly $500,000 just from the loss of the ag exempt status to the full value status. So I hope that answers that question. Second question, the proposed solar farm is designed to produce 830 gigawatts of electricity annually at a wholesale electric price of 4 to 5 cents per kilowatt. This is a revenue stream of about 44 million per year. It is difficult to see how IP Radiant paying the full county tax rate of about 1 million per year would make the project not profitable. If IP Radiant provides some numbers which show this can they show numbers to show this is the case? My rough estimate shows that the operating expenses are salaries and benefits for 2 full-time employees, approximately $250,000 a year, contract maintenance, $200,000 a year, insurance, $3 million a year, utilities for water and electricity there, $100,000 per year, corporate overhead, $2 million per year, taxes, $2 million per year. I don't know where that data came from, but there's no allowance in this summary for the legal expense, the purchase of the panels themselves, the cost of the lease payments to the landowners, the cost of the overall, it does say taxes of about $2 million a year. I guess that's what it would be after the abatement is granted. But the taxing entities themselves are having to pick up the landowner's tax increase due to the loss of the ag exempt. So there's a lot of expense there that's not in that guesstimate. I've been doing these things for, I think, since '98. I've done wind, I've done solar, I've done all types of different industrial type of tax abatements. The profit margins, in my opinion, are rather thin for the overall capital expenditure. These are big projects, they cost a lot of money, and they generate over time a lot of money, but the actual profit margin is no different really than most successful businesses. That being said, I hear the argument all the time, and I understand the argument. I come from a farm family. I've owned businesses myself. I understand that I never got a tax break abatement on my activity. My law firm doesn't get a tax abatement. All I'm saying is it's rare, though, that a $200 million, $300 million, $400 million bump to your ad valorem tax base comes by. The legislature has seen fit to give counties precious few tools to track economic development. Tax abatement is the primary tool we've been given. You can use it or not use it, but you got to use the tools. And I've heard the saying, if the only tool you got in your tool chest is a hammer, everything is a nail. Well, if the only tools we are given are tax abatement or other forms of tax benefit, then those are the tools we have to use. The other question I received are more factual. It says the opposition claims all native trees will be cleared. The solar farm diagram shows a large area of native trees that will remain, which is true. I'm not trying to give anybody any preference, but I don't know the answer to that. Somebody from the project can answer that.
That would be appropriate.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the question here. At the top in here. Yeah, so the answer is no, not all native trees will be cleared. The truth is that we will clear some trees, but we will also preserve a lot of trees. We go through pretty thorough design iterations. We try to avoid trees when we can, but to answer this question directly, no native trees will be cleared.
The opposition claims Brown County property tax revenue will be invested in this project. Is that true or false? The revenue stream will be paid to the county, and it'll go into the county's budget process. It can be used for whatever the county chooses to spend it on. Typically, I see counties dedicating these funds to road and bridge and using what had been coming out of the ad valorem tax to Road and Bridge, either replaced or supplemented. I see them using it for unfunded mandates that come from the legislature, handed down to counties. The taxpayer is told by the state legislature that we didn't raise your taxes, but they send things down to the county for the county to do without funding. So we have to find the funds to do it. Counties, you can use that money for indigent health care, for indigent defense, maintenance of facilities. It's your money. You can spend it how you want. Now, it's a pilot payment, so it doesn't come in through the ad valorem tax collection process. It's a contractual payment. It's not off book, but it doesn't calculate into the calculation of your effective tax rate. As a pilot payment, it spreads the amount of money that a 55% abatement would do, but it avoids the fact that solar projects by the state legislature are giving an accelerated depreciation rate. So that if you took a straight percentage, your value would sharply decline over as much as 10 years. And so at the end of 10 years, though, you reach a floor, a 20% floor. And that remains your taxable value for the remaining life of the project. So solar tends, without abatement, without pilots, to see a sharply declining revenue stream, but the pilot average is what you would get over the abatement period, in this case 7 years, and it levels that out so you get a predictable sum each year. The secondary effect is it doesn't have a direct effect on your effective tax rate, which again, the legislature seemed fit to cap us now at 3.5%, no more than that a year. And so with all of the cost of living increasing, fuel costs, material costs, our costs go up, but we can only raise our tax rate no more than effective tax rate, no more than 3.5%, or face a rollback election. So this money in a pilot helps you avoid having to go to higher taxes. Third question. Opposition claims the solar facility will negatively affect every county resident. How can this be true? How will everyone be negatively affected? I don't know the intention of the question. It's one of those how have you stopped beating your wife yet questions. It's not true. It won't negatively affect anyone, potentially. Now, I suppose if somebody is opposed and they have property next door, they're going to be negatively affected, I suppose, if they can see it. Maybe it's offensive, but otherwise, I'm not going to try to argue for the project. I'm just saying that the question is an unfair question. The opposition claims that a solar farm will devalue neighboring property. Have studies conducted across the United States proven that neighboring property will be devalued? I am not aware of a comprehensive study that's been done on a national basis. I'm not aware, frankly, of any intensive study that's been done. I have heard from real estate agents that they think it has. But if you will go back and look at the appraised values of adjoining properties 5 years ago or before a project and 5 years after, which I've done, I've not seen that much change. So I'm not in the real estate business, but I can read a tax roll, and I don't see it. Opposition claims that solar panels will be used for this project are mirrors. Is that true? No. They're solar panels. They absorb light. They don't reflect light so much. I had another question. It has been said by the 3M Brownwood, I'm not sure what that is, that 3M had purchased a solar farm. Is this that farm? And I don't know the answer to that. Any other questions? Thank you.
Do you know the answer to the question?
No, I'm not aware of this either, and 3M Brownwood has not purchased this solar farm. So,
anything further, gentlemen? appreciate your attention and your attendance. And feel free to continue to provide input to the commissioners between now and May the 10th. In your opinion. Thank you.